My next guest is Walter Cullin Jr. He is a dedicated educator, higher education administrator, consultant, and podcast host with a diverse background spanning healthcare administration, teaching, coaching, and leadership roles such as dean and associate principal. He holds a BS in healthcare administration, an MA in urban education, and an MS in educational leadership. Walter champions intrinsic motivation, accountability, and student empowerment through his motto, intrinsically motivated with no excuses. Passionate about building authentic educator-student relationships, Walter fosters inclusive learning environments and equips educators with strategies to connect meaningfully with students, particularly in urban education. His book, Intrinsically Motivated with No Excuses, inspires minority youth to develop self confidence, self awareness, and resilience. As the host of What's Your Motive podcast, Walter seeks to bridge divides, uncover true intentions, and cultivate collaboration to drive meaningful community impact. He is a devoted husband, father, and community advocate. He is committed to guiding and uplifting students, educators, and families, and his work reflects a deep dedication to student success, empowerment, and positive community transformation. Well, welcome to the podcast, Walter.
Thank you so much for having me, Dan. I really, really appreciate it.
We'll start off with a question I ask everyone. Tell me about a time when you were in the trenches and managed to crawl out.
Now, I have many stories from being a teacher, but I'm going to speak to one when I became an administrator.
Mhm.
I believe this was my first full year as an associate principal.
Mhm.
Whew, you know how the first day of school goes. You got the new kids, you got the new little kids coming in. You got to make sure that they're nervous. They don't know a lot. Some parents are, crying and,
Mhm.
sad to see their babies coming to school. So I was there as usual. I'm the first one there that they kind of like see. A
Mhm.
lot of the parents, a lot of the students. This was the first day of school. I remember I had a bright yellow tie on. I had a blue suit on.
Mhm.
So I'm talking to all the parents, and I have this young lady, this little girl. I think she was in kindergarten, and the dad comes up to me. She's like, "This is my baby. Please make sure you take care of my baby, Mr.
Mhm.
Cullen, or whatnot." I'm like, "Okay, I have you, no problem." Walk her into the school. Um, so the day goes on. The first day jitters for
Mhm.
everybody. You got some crying kindergartners. You got some people that are new. Trying to get them acclimated. The end of the day comes, and it's time for dismissal.
Mhm.
We first used to allow the walkers to leave. And then we would transition to have everyone come downstairs to go to the buses, the bus kids, and then the last one are the people that are, getting picked up.
Mhm.
This young lady lives across the street. The student lives
Mhm.
across the street, and the dad that came to see me lives across the street. So that was easy, and I knew that, and the kindergarten teacher knew that. However, a lot of times those kindergartners, when you say their names, sometimes they're shy. They may not respond to it.
Mhm.
So this teacher, she failed to confirm this young lady's name, and it
Mhm.
happened to be the young lady that the father introduced me to. They put her on the
Oh
bus,
no.
so I'm running around in dismissal, and I'm trying to make sure everything is taken care of. The teachers have
Mhm.
checked off everything, and I just hear this ruckus, and you hear this man, the same
Mhm.
man that I introduced him, and he's
Yeah.
like, "Where my baby was here?" He's,
Mhm.
rightfully so. He's in panic. Why is his,
Yeah.
K4, K5-year-old? Why are they on the bus and they live right across the street?
Mhm.
And he screams, and I will never forget it. It was like this blood curdling like yelp, like,
Mhm.
"I gave her to the man with the tie, the man with the
Yeah.
tie." And I'm like, "Whoa, what is going
Yeah.
on? What is going on?" And he's pointing at me
Uh,
as I'm coming up the stairs, and I'm like, "What did I do?" And he's like, "I gave you my daughter." And I'm like, "Yes, you did. She was here. Yes, yes, she was here."
mhm.
And I'm looking at the teacher like, "Where is she?" And they're like, "We put her on a bus." And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, no,
Mhm. Mhm.
no, she wasn't supposed to go there." So I'm in charge of buses, so I have to call the bus company. Like, "Do you have, this student? Do
Yeah.
you have this student?" And we're doing that for maybe 30 minutes. Finally, the bus comes back around, and
Yeah.
guess who's there? Guess who's there?
The girl,
The
the boy.
child.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. That was a trench moment simply
Uh,
because of the first day of school. We got all these different variables and things going on. a gentleman brings me his daughter. I'm
Yes.
responsible for these kids, Dana. You know what I mean? And
Yes.
I feel a huge responsibility. But when he pointed to me and was like, as a father, and he's saying like, I gave her to the man with the tie, and he was pointing at
Hmm.
me like, I'm like, what just happened here?
Uh-huh.
That was a trench moment. That was a trench moment.
Yeah. I've heard a lot of those first day trench stories, and that tops a lot of them when it comes to like losing a kid. And at least you could contact the bus, right, and have them bring her back. But like, those are those things that, accidentally get overlooked, right? And the
You're
teacher,
right.
those are, it's possible in any school that could happen, but it is kind of embarrassing with the parents there. And then, it's like I take it
Yeah.
the rest of the year went smooth with that child and the parent.
No, absolutely, absolutely. He was actually pretty good about it, but like during that situation, you have to be calm. You have to be the calm one. I was startled
Hmm.
by it, but I couldn't really show it. I had to be like, matter, like, no, you did give me your daughter. You know what I mean? And really trying to keep everyone at bay because it was hysterical. I mean, people were
Hmm.
being hysterical. And then the teacher, she had no malintent. You know what I mean? She was
Hmm.
really trying to do. It was just a lot going on. And again, as an administrator, we're supposed to try to make sure everyone is comfortable, everyone
Sure.
feels supported, especially that first day.
Hmm.
So I just tried to be as calm, and confident as possible. Like we're gonna figure this out, but knowing, also putting myself in the shoes of a parent. Like,
Hmm.
where's my little baby? That's their baby,
Yes.
right? And they're on a bus, but they live across the street, and I run her,
Hmm.
right. So, um, but we had a great relationship for the rest of it. And I was like, hey, I got my tie on. It's me. I got
Hmm.
her. And those things. So
Hmm. Yeah. Well, that
yeah.
leads into what I wanted to ask about forging student connections. So,
Hmm.
as you worked as a teacher, you told me you taught second, fifth, sixth, and eighth grade.
This is
You've
true.
also done program with high school students.
Hmm.
How has your experience led you to this passion about student-teacher relationships and outreach to students as well outside of school hours?
So what's interesting, Dana, like I always tell everyone that I kind of got into teaching and
Hmm.
education through the back door,
Okay.
because I was in healthcare.
Hmm.
I had been coaching, and I had some opportunities as a junior in high school to like teach a kid the fundamentals of basketball. So maybe
Hmm.
that was subconsciously some teaching. Nonetheless, I was offered a job to start teaching, and then I went to school to get my
Hmm.
licensure and things like
Okay.
that. But I always remember what it felt like when I was in a classroom, how I
Hmm.
enjoyed it. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? What were those connections like for me? Those teachers that I remember. And I'll
Hmm.
always try to be that teacher that they could remember. But
Hmm.
the way I would go about it, sometimes they tell you to do icebreakers, find out what their favorite color is and things like that, favorite food.
Hmm.
And while that may work for some, I always thought about being a little bit more authentic. So I always
Hmm.
used to listen to the students, engage in conversations, set the tone, allow them to share and create the
Hmm.
norms of the classroom and how our class community will work together as a collective. And I
Hmm.
let them know that this is your classroom. I'm the facilitator of learning. I'm the guy
Hmm.
here that's facilitating it, but you are
Sure.
the person that's in charge of it. So I will provide them with different opportunities to be leaders, to be great followers, to become
Hmm.
great leaders. So a lot of my interactions was, instead of us going down to lunch, you know what? We're going to have lunch together. We're going to go down, grab lunch, and we're going to sit in the class and we're going to have a conversation.
Hmm.
It
Hmm.
made it, and it was aside from the academia pieces, because I knew
Hmm.
the importance of me being able to, in order for me to reach and teach them, I actually had to forge some kind of relationship for them to actually believe in me and believe in
Hmm.
themselves. And that catapulted me after my first year teaching. I realized that because in second grade, I'm thinking 34 second graders, I think I can just tell them, Dana, like, be quiet, sit down. It didn't work like that. You know what I mean? You don't
Yeah.
know. I just came from the healthcare field. I lost my voice the first week.
Yeah.
And it was just like, what is going on? So I ran it back that next year and taught fifth grade. And I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of like how you do it. And I had to get to know these different students. We
Hmm.
had to do some things. We had to do some engaging projects. I had to sit down and do a project and present it to them as well. I
Hmm.
took part in that so they can see that. I did a lot of modeling,
Hmm.
and I allowed myself to come into it. So I would tell them about my family.
Hmm.
I would tell them about things I like. A lot of humor. I use a lot of
Yeah.
humor. When I taught sixth and eighth grade, a lot of sarcasm and
Yeah.
humor.
Hmm.
Um, but also maintain that fine line so they knew the importance of academia and
Mm-hmm.
also the socialization piece.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then just outside, I always, after, when you get done with the school year, you have the summer. What do you do in the summer? Sometimes you
Mm-hmm.
teach summer school, sometimes you take the time off. But I was like, you know what? I still want to stay engaged with kids just to keep my tools sharpened.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a summer youth internship program. I actually can't work it this summer because I'm expecting a young child in
Mm-hmm.
July. But I would be doing a workshop. But they get jobs as interns throughout the city of Milwaukee,
Mm-hmm.
and I was known as I was a team leader. Made sure
Okay.
that they had everything they need. Check in on them. Talk to them about we did resume writing. Worked on social skills.
Mm-hmm.
Um, did a lot of field trips to this place called Jones Island, where we see the
Mm-hmm.
filtration of the water. And I always wanted to try to edify them, but also try to inculcate this passion to do some self edification. And
Mm-hmm.
I tried to do that for all of my students, just for the sake of like, you want to do it for yourself. And I know we'll get to
Mm-hmm.
that in terms of intrinsic motivation, but
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty much how I tried to cultivate a lot of relationships, just through a lot of dialogue, a lot of discussions,
Mm-hmm.
debating, verbal boxing, on different topics, bringing the curriculum to life, if you
Mm-hmm.
will. Like, did I utilize a script? Sometimes, but I usually try to improv a lot. I taught
Mm-hmm.
when I taught middle school, I taught like some block scheduling,
Mm-hmm.
and it's sad to say that, no, but my second class was always better than my first.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I had already done it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I planned and I executed it, but I was like, okay, I know I add the spin for the next class because the next
Mm-hmm.
class always kind of got it better. But
Yeah.
yeah, that's been my thing, Danny. That's been my thing. Just authentic relationships through lots of conversation, engaging with their parents, keeping up to date with
Mm-hmm.
them.
Mm-hmm.
I'm only calling a parent if it's something that I really feel like they should, be contacted for.
Mm-hmm.
I prided myself on being able to not control, but manage the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
But more so where it was kind of like student led and student
Mm-hmm.
centered.
Yeah.
So if a student didn't have something, I wasn't bashing them about it. The students would get
Mm-hmm.
on and be like, you have to be intrinsically motivated with no excuses. I
Mm-hmm.
utilized that as a mantra. We had that on a daily basis. But I also, rightfully so, was graceful and let them
Mm-hmm.
know that, we don't have to utilize excuses, but we have facts and things
Mm-hmm.
that actually happen in our lives that we do
Yeah.
have to make accommodations for.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mentioned in the bio that you founded the company Intrinsically Motivated. So,
Yes.
talk to me about when you founded it and what the company's goals are in
Mm-hmm.
terms of working with students and families.
So let me see. The thought and the idea
Mm-hmm.
came about, I believe, during my teaching career in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
Just a quick history of that. I was teaching middle school, and a lot of the students kept coming up to me like, "Mr. Cullin, if I do well, can we get extra recess? Mr.
Mm-hmm.
Cullin, if we do well as a class and come back from, I'm just making this name up because I don't want to give anybody a Mr. Roselle's class. Can we go outside?
Yeah.
Can we have a pizza party?" They wanted
Mm-hmm.
all these extrinsic rewards
Yeah.
for doing well academically, for doing well socially, for behaving. And I sat back one day and I was just like, that's not how I kind of like approach school.
Mm-hmm.
So I challenged them and I said, like, you'll get rewarded sporadically, but I'll never tell you when it will happen.
Mm-hmm.
So throughout this time, in between time, I need you to do it for the sake of yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Don't do it for mom. Don't
Yeah.
do it for dad. Don't do it for anyone else. That can be your inspiration. That's totally fine because I
Mm-hmm.
believe there needs to be a balance between extrinsic and intrinsic rewards for sure. But I
Mm-hmm.
want the sole core of them to be self motivated to where,
Mm-hmm.
oh, I brought in my lexicon and it felt good to me. So now
Mm-hmm.
I can utilize that in conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I studied hard. I tried to do my best. I failed on my test, but guess what? I know I tried hard. I'm gonna be resilient and I'm gonna keep doing that because I know I owe it to myself and I want to
Mm-hmm.
do it. So that was in 2016, and I challenged my class. I'll never forget that. I'm still near and dear to that class. We usually have summer meetups. I
Mm-hmm.
usually do that. I've been doing that since about 2018.
Mm-hmm.
But intrinsically motivated, the company came about, I want to say 2020 or 2021.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It was kind of around that pandemic time. And I was
Mhm.
just like, okay, we got this time off. Like, what do I want to do on top of me, still being an administrator and things like
Mhm.
that? But it's just like, I still see it even as an administrator. Like, these
Mhm.
kids are still not motivated to do anything unless they get something. Oh,
Yeah.
I got this score. I deserve to do this. I get a dress down day because of this. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? And
Yeah.
it has
Yeah.
its place, Dana. It has its place.
Mhm.
Incentives
Mhm.
have their place, but we need kids that really want to do it for the sake of bettering themselves and being productive citizens within society, because that impacts everyone else around them,
Mhm.
that whole
Mhm.
ecosystem.
Mhm.
So I did that around 2020 or 2021, and I was just like, you know what? I'm going to write a book.
Mhm.
I'm going to
Mhm.
write a book about this. So that's how the book came about. And it's like a book slash journal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, because, our kids, many kids, their attention span is kind of short, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna give them some great literature, and then I want them to actually take it back and reflect. So there's a journal piece at the end,
Mhm.
where they and inspiring quotes and things like that that they can
Mhm.
reflect and write about. So I gave them the basis of what it means, what it could look like, and actually question and challenge them at the end.
Mhm.
So that's how it came about. I did create a curriculum. I just haven't digitized it yet.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, and it's on like self awareness, self motivation, being self driven, um, and those things. So I'm trying to. That's my next thing, is to try to do that.
Mhm. Mhm. So when you've worked with these students through the company,
Hmm.
what are some of the things that schools use the journal for in
Hmm.
terms of like throughout the day, whether they have morning meetings or
Hmm.
advisory, and how can it, like, if you have a large population of multilingual learner students or students, from low income
Hmm.
neighborhoods, tell me a little bit about that.
So the way it's been used, usually typically they have me come in and actually
Hmm.
speak to them about a little bit about my history as an
Okay.
educator, but also trying to, how would I say, try to galvanize them to
Hmm.
want to do better in school,
Okay.
especially in some of the economically challenged areas, urban areas,
Hmm.
and things like that. So they'll bring me in, I'll speak. I've been a keynote speaker in different classes. Usually try to provide most of the books, but a lot of times they'll purchase them for the students,
Hmm.
and we'll go over little pieces and
Hmm.
things like that. I may sit them out in groups, and they can highlight in the journals, in the
Hmm.
book, and pick out pieces. We'll talk, we'll reflect, we'll do a lot of discussion, like I said,
Hmm.
especially for the middle school kids and things like that. And then I've also had an individual, shout out, her name is Ruth Fleury.
Hmm.
She's all the way in Brooklyn, New York, and she found me, and she actually ordered some books and took them to talk to the kids about intrinsic motivation. And I was able to provide her pretty much like the background, what it means, what I'm trying to do. She
Hmm.
actually read the book and things like that. Um, I also do like little one-on-ones with different individuals for mentorships. So a lot of people reach
Hmm.
out to me to mentor their nephew or their niece and things like that, in regards to some, whether it be academic or social.
Hmm.
So I've been able to do that. What I'm trying to do is, I have a workshop coming up June 27th
Hmm.
with the city of Milwaukee for the youth internship, children, and I kind of want to try to figure out if I can do like a book study with it,
Hmm.
and try to do that. That'll be something next that I'll be trying to do.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and that way you can expand the reach as well,
Yeah,
maybe
exactly.
to teachers who can then implement this in their advisory classes or with the
Yep.
small groups. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And tell me a little bit about your What's Your Motive podcast. How long has that been on, and what's your setup? Do you interview guests or do solo episodes?
So, Dana, I'm typically an introverted guy.
Uh-huh.
I never was like a social media guy. I never
Yeah.
was one, I was kind of introverted, but I could be extroverted in an intimate setting,
Mm-hmm.
like you and I having a conversation. I could do this
Mm-hmm.
all day, Dana, like all day.
Mm-hmm.
So January 19th of 2024,
Mm-hmm.
I ended up getting in an accident.
Okay.
And I was in an accident, myself and my daughter, and my meniscus was torn, and I was
Mm-hmm.
out for a while. So I'm off of work and I'm just like, what else could I be doing? Like mentally, I just was like, what can I do?
Yeah.
Um, and I was just like, you know what? I've been talking about starting a podcast
Mhm.
and just looking around the city of Milwaukee. And I don't want to speak bad or cast any disparagement on anyone, but it seemed very siloed.
Mhm. Mhm.
So we got all these people doing things in the community, but why? Why are we
Mhm.
not coming together? Why is there no collaboration?
Mhm.
So I'm like, you
Mhm.
know what? I'm trying to figure out what these individual people's motives are.
Mhm.
But my focus was on the people that are really, really grassroots that are on the come up or people
Mhm.
are not seeing.
Mhm.
And that's how the podcast came up. So February 2024 is when I released my first episode. So I've been doing it
Mhm.
since February of 2024. I started out with getting a lot of educators on there,
Mhm.
guidance counselors, really trying to help the youth
Mhm.
in terms of their outlook on education, and also provide a purview for other individuals that don't understand the realm of education
Mhm.
and what
Yeah.
teachers and people go through. Got entrepreneurs, lawyers, community advocates. I just had an individual that was a mayoral candidate.
Mhm.
I'm just speaking from all these different perspectives, right?
Mhm.
And just saying like you guys are all community workers. And my final question is always, what's your motive? Like, why are you doing this?
Mhm. Mhm.
Just trying to see. I'm really not trying to be surreptitious about it, but I'm really trying
Mhm.
to find out like, are you guys doing it for a genuine purpose? Is it for an
Mhm.
image? You know what I mean, Dana? And I'm just trying to uncover those things and challenge everyone to let's be a collective. So I'm building up this reservoir, this reserve of individuals that I have on the podcast and being
Mhm.
able to be like, let's collaborate and try to
Mhm.
find ways to collaborate and make some things happen for the community, and especially for the kids, but also for the adults as well.
Mhm. Mhm. So it's not just people who are focused on helping schools or education, but also betterment of the community in general.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Mhm. Um, so you told me a little bit about some of the speaking that you do.
Hmm.
You've done it a lot in Milwaukee, but also some other places.
Hmm.
What are some other options for you to work with schools? And you told me about there's an organization you contract with to do consultancy as well.
Correct. I am a consultant for the Wisconsin Education Innovations,
Mm-hmm.
and I usually contact myself and my other business partner for I have an education consulting firm as
Mm-hmm.
well. Will Holloway, and he and I do like virtual, or we'll go into the schools
Mm-hmm.
to provide professional development for teachers. I usually try to get the new teachers, but we get a variety of individuals. We have seasoned teachers that have been teaching for 40 years,
Mm-hmm.
special education teachers, you name it. And then sometimes I've gotten contracts to do things for people that are not in the state of Wisconsin. Talking about whether it be um, cultural competence.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was crazy. One time I was asked to provide a PD on like anti-racism in the
Mm-hmm.
classroom. Um, Different kinds of student engagement,
Mm-hmm.
classroom curriculum engagement. How do you do some
Mm-hmm.
different things to liven it up? Real world experiences and things like that. So those are kind of some of the things I've been doing, like on whether it be locally in Milwaukee,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
or it may be, I think it was like in Illinois. I've done something for like virtually for like some individuals in Illinois, and I want to say it was Oklahoma,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm mistaken. And then Roof Flurry has been trying to get me to come out to Brooklyn, New York. I have yet to get out there, and we have yet to set it up there, but I'll be out there soon.
Mm-hmm, hmm. Well, I think as teachers listen to this when this comes out
Mhm,
around the beginning of the school year, a lot of teachers' frustrations, I think, and this
mhm.
applies to any time during the school year, but students are lacking motivation, right? And
Yes.
they want a reward for doing like, is this homework for a grade or, is this if I do this, I'm going to get that. So, what is your message to teachers who want to increase that intrinsic motivation rather than kids focusing so much on these extrinsic awards?
So the way I would do it is
Yeah.
the beginning of the year. I'm not sure how everyone else is able to do it, but the first 2 weeks of the school year, We're
Mhm.
so quick to want to like dive into curriculum. We want to
Yeah.
get into curriculum. We got to teach these kids, right? But we
Hmm.
have to set the foundation. Those first 2 weeks are extremely crucial. So
Hmm.
those first 2 weeks, I would suggest, and I found this to be effective for myself, is we're norming the classroom.
Hmm.
We're creating a mantra that we're going to live by, in which we actually, I have the kids like sign contracts, like this is what it is.
Hmm.
So intrinsically motivated with no excuses, and we break down what that means, right?
Hmm.
Yes, I'll celebrate you. Yes, we'll have
Hmm.
parties and things like that. But make that, I drill it and drill it. You are here to
Hmm.
become better for yourself,
Yeah.
and you have to be adamant about that those first 2 weeks, and don't
Hmm.
waver from it. You know what I mean? It's almost like you play mean and you play stern a little
Hmm.
bit that first couple of weeks, and then you really let them know, like, look, now let's
Yeah.
embrace it. Let's have some fun.
Hmm.
But the precedent has to be set early. And I know that it's not foolproof, Dana. I won't say that it's perfect, but I recognize that when I've done that earlier on,
Hmm.
it's a lot more fruitful in the end, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Because I mean that's the learning space for them, right? So we want them to make mistakes. We want them to mess up sometimes. We
Hmm.
expect that. Brains are not even fully developed. They're
Hmm.
impulsive. They're having these bad days. We got things from the background they're
Hmm.
bringing in to the school. But if I set that foundation in the beginning, you cannot say that I didn't say that. And I'm going to
Hmm.
exemplify that because if I
Hmm.
mess up and you tell me I accept the mistake, you know what, Jonathan, you're right. I did spell that right. You know what, Jonathan? I am late. I should have had that copy made. That's on
Hmm.
me. That
Hmm.
doesn't affect you. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Those types of things. So you have to, those first two
Hmm.
weeks. I don't know if everyone can do that because I know, the pendulum swing in education, right? Best
Hmm.
practices, you know what I mean? You know how that goes, right?
Hmm.
So sometimes teachers are not afforded that autonomy. And
Yeah.
if you have that autonomy, or even if you don't, try to figure out how to do that. Close that door and make it happen because it
Hmm.
can be done. It can be done,
Hmm.
but you have to set that precedent in those first couple of weeks.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, and I think a lot of teachers have that intention to build those relationships in the first couple weeks, but then often they have like the benchmark testing start
Yeah,
like within a
yeah,
few weeks,
yeah,
and
yeah.
they might not want to introduce academics, but like it seems to be there's other things that creep in a lot of the time,
Mm-hmm.
and I think like you said, it's really being intentional and maybe working on that with
Yes.
your team, teachers just to make sure that they want to keep that
Mm-hmm.
going throughout the year because setting that at the beginning will help
Yeah.
as they move forward throughout the year. So
Yeah.
we've had a great conversation today around your work with schools, your journal, as well as your trench story when you started out as an administrator. Out of everything we talked about, what's one thing you'd like listeners to remember?
It's funny that you asked me this today. Um, I did my first podcast yesterday with
Mhm.
a food review podcast called the Table Podcast, and it was a collaboration. So, if one thing I want individuals to take away is collaboration over competition.
Mhm.
I find that meeting you know, meeting other individuals, talking to other individuals, learning from other people,
Mhm.
not being afraid to sit in the same rooms and pick each other's brains, if you
Mhm.
will. Sharing information, not gatekeeping it, because what's for you is for you, for me
Mhm.
is for me. But we can all be fruitful in this space. I really
Mhm.
truly believe in that collaboration over competition, and one of
Mhm.
and I didn't say those words, so um, I want to give credit to the person that said it. Khalif, he was one of my guests on my podcast, and
Okay.
we were talking about that, and he was like, "Well, it needs to be collaboration over competition."
Mhm.
And I was telling him that's exactly why What's Your Motive exists, because I'm trying to make force that collaboration and
Mhm.
eliminate that competition. Healthy competition is fine, but let's
Yeah.
still be collaborative.
Yeah, and I think in education, it's really important to learn from
Yes,
one another, right? So,
absolutely,
yeah. So, where can
absolutely.
people connect with you and find you online?
So you'll be able to find me. Obviously, well, not obviously. I'm going to say this. I have a Facebook, which is
Hmm.
intrinsically motivated. I have an Instagram, which is intrinsically motivated, where I post a lot
Hmm.
of my reels. I am on TikTok, but you can find me on those places pretty easily. Otherwise, I'm really. I had a website, I'm in the process of restructuring it because I want to
Okay.
get that. interactive module on there, like I was trying to
Okay.
tell you for that curriculum. So I'm working on that. But I'm on YouTube
Okay.
at what's your motive is on
Okay.
there. So you can find me on YouTube as well. And then I have my email. So it's
Hmm.
intrinsically motivated for, because I have four pillars,
Okay.
at gmail.com.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being on the Out of the Trenches podcast today. It was a pleasure hearing about your work, and I hope people reach out to you if they want to learn how to help their students more become intrinsically motivated and
For sure.
build better relationships with them.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate the conversation.